This video will change your perception of history. I am going to tell you about 7 Egyptian weapons that were so ingenious that they changed the course of warfare. Ancient Egypt is rarely thought of as a laboratory for military innovation, but it was there that solutions ahead of their time were born. Simple-looking spears, bows, axes, and bronze blades were transformed into a system where every detail worked toward a result. The Egyptians did not strive for ostentatious severity. They valued the predictability of weapons and confidence in their techniques. Their strength lay in the purity of form, precision of manufacture, and discipline of application. This is the story of how 7 types of weapons changed the course of wars on the Nile and far beyond. Watch the video to the end, and you will learn how discipline, metal, and geometry turned Egypt into a military power.
Maintain formation. Keep the line steady. Move! Advance!
Want to hear a YouTube hook that changes your view of a seemingly familiar weapon? I will reveal the best-kept secret of the simple spear. Its power lies not in its tip, but in its training system, formation, and distances. The Egyptians divided the functions between the spear for formation and the light javelin for close-range mobile throwing. This duality allowed them to quickly change the pace of battle without losing control of the order. The spear held the space, while the javelin broke the enemy's formation and imposed an advantageous pause. The first thing that distinguished the Egyptian spear was the extreme repeatability of its dimensions. The shafts were selected according to height so that the hand automatically found its balance and the muscles memorized the movement. The tips were made in several standardized shapes, which simplified repairs in the field. In battle, this provided the same amplitude of thrust and the same speed of return to the starting position. In formation, this uniformity turned into a smooth wall of points that was difficult to break the rhythm of. The javelin existed alongside it, but served a different purpose. It was thrown from behind a shield, from behind a neighbor's shoulder, or before a short lunge forward. Lightweight, with a strong shaft and a carefully fitted tip, it flew along a predictable trajectory. The fighter did not rely on chance. He relied on repeatability. One gesture, and the opponent was forced to change his stance or step. The attachment of the tip to the shaft was worked out as carefully as the shape of the iron or bronze itself. Winding, glue, sleeve. It is not a spectacular detail, but it is what holds the instrument together. The fewer surprises there are when striking, the greater the fighter's confidence. And confidence means pace and order. The Egyptian spear is a discipline of movement. The javelin is a discipline of the moment. Together, they formed a combination where distance and time always worked in favor of the Egyptians. It would be very interesting to hear your point of view. Which of the two, on the spear or the javelin, do you consider to be the more intelligent? Write about it in the comments and be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next reviews. Are you ready for the shocking truth about the main driving force behind the Egyptian victories? It's not about myths, but about design. The composite bow combined wood, horn, and tendons, creating a reserve of elasticity that was unavailable to a simple wooden bow. The Egyptians did not invent it alone, but they perfected it into a technological discipline, from the selection of materials to storage. The result was high arrow energy with compact dimensions. This was an equally important advantage for both charioteers and foot archers. There are always 2 secrets to a composite: glue and climate. The Egyptians solved them with regulations. They dried, glued, wrapped, covered with protection, and then stored them in cases. The bow does not tolerate chance. It likes predictability. Therefore, craftsmen passed on not talent, but a sequence of steps. The warrior received not a work of art, but a tool with guaranteed reliability. The accuracy of the Egyptians lies in the geometry of the bow and the repeatability of the bowstring. Arrows were selected by length, feathers were aligned by stiffness, and tips were calibrated by weight. Training shoots built a habit of one effort per draw. When the effort is familiar to the hand, the trajectory is familiar to the eye, and then the volley of the formation falls like a steady rain. In Egypt, archery is not only about distance, but also about tempo. A charioteer could shoot arrows without losing momentum, and a foot soldier could change angles without breaking stride. A light platform and a strong bowstring created a steady rhythm. The enemy saw not individual shots, but an organized sequence. A sequence is always stronger than a single strike. Ask yourself this question. If you were offered a choice of one tool to control space, would you choose a shield or a composite bow? Write down your opinion, and in the next chapter, you will see a weapon that looks like a curved blade, but controls the lines of battle differently than any other. What you have never seen in conventional blades is the crescent-shaped geometry of the khopesh, which works not only for cutting, but also for controlling trajectory. The Egyptians did not strive for maximum length. They needed maneuverability. By shifting the mass to the front, they turned the arc into a lever. The lever makes a short hand movement noticeable and predictable for the fighter, but difficult for the opponent. The khopesh is a lesson in mechanics. A pocket of force appears at the bend of the blade, which helps to guide the edge along the intended line. Such blades are more convenient in close formation, where there is no room for wide swings. A short handle, a confident grip, a clear plane, everything is designed to work alongside a shield. The tool does not require strength, it requires precision. The Egyptians monitored not only the sharpness, but also the thickness of the butt, so that the blade would keep its shape. The curves removed excess tension so that the metal would not walk. The edge was finished so that it would not bite into the material. This reduced accidental jamming and saved energy. Once again, discipline was more important than aggression. Some images show the khopesh as a status symbol, but it was valued primarily for its controllability. Paired with a shield, it created a predictable arc of attack and a safe return sector. A warrior could repeat the same sequence of movements many times, and repeatability always wins over improvisation. The blade became an extension of habit. The uniqueness of the khopesh lies in the fact that it gives short movements a great effect. It is not about spectacle, but about economy of effort. And it is precisely the economy of effort in a long campaign that makes an army sustainable. The Egyptians knew how to preserve what was most important, the resource of the fighter. Guess what happened next when the Egyptians picked up the new axe? They turned an ordinary striking tool into a precise key to shield formation. The crescent-shaped blade, the shifted center of gravity, and the secure attachment to the handle created a stable, repeatable movement. The axe ceased to be brute force and became a mechanism of contact. Geometry worked for the fighter. The main requirement for the axe was a perfect blade fit. To achieve this, bushings, wedges, and strapping were used to eliminate play. When the tool has no play, it is predictable. The handle was selected according to thickness, so that the palm maintained the same grip. This reduced fatigue and maintained tempo. The crescent shape provided a controllable line of attack. The blade entered the material at a constant angle. The fighter could feel where the edge was without looking at it. This sped up decision-making and saved movement. A comrade standing nearby knew which sector his partner was covering, and the formation remained intact. The axe was also valued as a camp tool. The same tool could perform several tasks outside of combat. Such versatility reduced the load, simplified supply, and sped up preparation. The Egyptians loved objects that did not disrupt the routine. The fewer variables, the higher the reliability. The axe fit this philosophy. There is a fundamental question: which is more important, striking power or angle accuracy? In Egypt, the answer was simple. Angle accuracy wins in the long run. In the next chapter, you will learn about a quiet but disciplined long-range tool. The process seems primitive, but in Egypt, it followed the same rules of standardization and repeatability. Strings of equal length, pockets of equal shape, and stones or clay acorns of repeatable weight. Such standardization gives rise to predictable ballistics. The fighter sees not chaos, but a line.
Forward march! Hold the line! Steady now, for Egypt!
Training was based on the speed of rotation, which dictated the same release speed. When the speed is the same, it is easy to maintain the angle by habit. Then a series of flights behaves in the same way, and this is a silent volley. Where the bow controls the tension, the Prussia controls the frequency. It is convenient to work with Prussia in terms of area and approaches to important points. Light projectiles allow you to carry a large ammunition load without overloading. The shooter occupies a modest place in the ranks and does not require complex equipment. This saves the army's resources. The Egyptians valued such solutions. The material for the cords was selected to suit the climate so that they would not absorb excess moisture and change length. Leather and plant fibers were treated to stabilize their properties. As a result, the bow behaved the same in the morning and in the evening. It sounds simple, but it is precisely this simplicity in the details that keeps the system going. Stability is an advantage. In combination with spears and bows, the Prussia added another layer of distance. It is similar to a multi-level defense, where each level complements rather than duplicates the one next to it. The Egyptians built precisely such cascades. What if everything you've been taught about bronze is outdated, and it's not about softness, but about the engineering of the edge and body of the blade? The Egyptians worked with bronze as if it were a living material. They knew where it liked thickness and where it liked a thin finish. Daggers and short swords were made rigid where necessary and controllable, where hand feedback was important. This is not a compromise, but a balance. Blades were made in several sizes to suit height, grip, and fighting style. The handles were shaped to fit the palm, and the guard protected the fingers without adding unnecessary weight. The balance was shifted toward the middle to speed up changes in direction. In close conjunction with the shield, this solves literally everything. A small detail becomes a system. The edge was sharpened for a specific task, longer for cutting, blunter for endurance when in contact with hard surfaces. Warriors were taught not to chop, but to guide the edge along the line where it senses the material. This technique saves energy and increases repeatability. Once again, repeatability is stronger than improvisation. Pay special attention to sheaths and hangers. The blade should be accessible at the same angle without searching. This saves precious fractions of a second when they are especially valuable. The more predictable a small operation is, the calmer the whole scene is. Calmness is a resource. There is a basic question. If you were given one blade for the entire trip, would you choose a long sword or a short but manageable one? Write your answer in the comments, and in the next chapter, we will move on to an object that was both a symbol and a practical tool. The club, or more precisely, its thoughtful evolution. The staff is known in Egypt from early depictions as a sign of power, but it also served as a practical tool for close combat. Its strength lies in its sturdy neck and head, which distributes weight without unnecessary stress concentrators. The Egyptians gradually moved away from fragile forms to geometry that could withstand stress. The tool became more reliable and predictable. The symbol turned into a working standard. The handle was adjusted to fit the palm, and a wrap was added to maintain grip in the heat. The shape of the head was chosen not for show, but for the path of force through the material. When the blow follows a calculated trajectory, the arm tires less. Fatigue is the enemy of rhythm. The club worked well with a shield, a short swing, a controlled arc, a safe return to the sector. In close formation, these qualities are particularly valuable. No excessive amplitude, only controlled movements. The Egyptians loved tools that you could trust by touch. In everyday life, the club also served as an auxiliary tool, which reduced the overall load. Versatility means economy. Economy means sustainability of campaigns. Small gains add up to big ones. This is how an army works, for which it is important to arrive on time. It is important that the staff did not compete with the blade, but covered a different scenario. Together, they formed a set where each item knew its place. Such a set outlasts any fashion. The chariot is not just a means of transport, but a stable platform for a bow. The tires, hubs, balance, and elasticity of the frame allowed the chariot to maintain its course without jumping when an arrow was released. The charioteer-archer pair turned movement into aiming. The composite bow revealed its full potential here. Speed did not interfere with accuracy. The lightness of the design saved the horse's strength, which meant more time in position. Low weight meant less vibration and fewer unexpected breakdowns. The well-tuned harness made the trajectory of turns predictable. The archer learned to shoot in the same phase window. Repeatability wins again. The tactics of chariots were distance and arc fire. They worked at the edges of formations, imposing convenient rhythms. The infantry had to change the angles of their shields, which broke their order. Each such failure opened a window for the next volley. The mechanics of battle turned into a chain of advantageous moments. The supply of chariots included the standardization of parts. Axles, spokes, and hubs could be changed quickly. In field workshops, this reduced downtime. The army valued maintainability as much as striking power. Without maintenance, there is no stability. The chariot became a multiplier for the bow and for reconnaissance. It expanded the commander's field of vision and accelerated reporting. When information moves quickly and predictably, decisions are made on time. On time is the key word for the Egyptian military machine.
Their cavalry is too far back.
In Egypt, the shield is not only a means of protection, but also a geometric structure in which weapons function without fail. Height, width, curvature, everything was proportionate to the average height and arm length. The shield held the line, while the sword and spear worked in safe sectors. The fighter did not search for the trajectory, he knew it in advance. Knowledge creates calmness. For an Egyptian warrior, the shield was an extension of the body, part of the overall movement. It did not simply protect a person from a blow, but set the direction of the entire line of battle. When hundreds of fighters lined up shoulder to shoulder, it was the shape and size of the shields that determined the rhythm of the attack. Even a slight deviation could destroy the formation, so the shield was calculated with mathematical precision. Every curve had a purpose. Every detail supported the overall balance. The very idea of battle geometry was born from observing the human body. The Egyptians understood that the movement of the arm, the angle of the strike, and the step must be coordinated. Therefore, the shield was designed so as not to interfere with the attack or restrict visibility. This allowed the fighter to act confidently without being distracted by adjusting his posture. The materials were selected to suit the climate. Layers of wood, leather, and covering to maintain shape in the heat. The straps and grip were adjusted to fit the palm, and the edges were reinforced. The shield should not play at a critical moment. No play means precision. Precision means speed. The Egyptian sun and dry air made metal impractical, so wood was the basis. Several layers glued together under pressure created a strong but lightweight structure. The surface was covered with leather to protect it from cracks and overheating. Even the glue was specially selected so that it would not lose its strength at high temperatures. All this ensured the reliability and predictability of the shield's behavior. Ease of grip was crucial. Soldiers had to hold their shields for hours without getting tired or losing control. The straps were made in different lengths, and the inside was lined with soft material. The absence of play between the hand and the surface meant precision of movement. Precision allowed soldiers to keep pace with their neighbors in formation. This is how tempo was born, the main ally of the Egyptian army. The formation was an extension of the shield. The distances between people were measured so that the sectors did not overlap. The commands were simple and repetitive. The simplicity of the commands reduced errors, which meant that the tempo was maintained. In Egypt, tempo is more important than flashes of brilliance. It leads to a steady victory without extremes. In the Egyptian army, the formation was not a random gathering of warriors. It was almost an architectural structure where each person was an element of the overall scheme. The distances between the fighters were measured literally in steps and outstretched arms. Even a half-step error could disrupt the coordination, so the training was repeated until it became automatic.
Strike the earth!
Orders were given briefly, rhythmically,
Attention!
without unnecessary words. This simplicity allowed commanders to control hundreds of people at once. There was no time for explanations in battle, and the entire army acted as a single body. When the ranks moved in unison, the enemy saw not a crowd, but a living wall that did not break or rush. The Egyptians valued stability rather than flashes of bravery. Victory came where the pace was maintained. In the combination of shield, spear, sword, each item reveals the strengths of the other. The spear maintains distance, the sword decides close-range maneuvers, and the shield provides calm. The psychology of calm often wins before physical contact. This is the quiet power of the Egyptian approach. When a spearman sees a protected space in front of him, he does not doubt his movement. The shield creates a sense of security that is transmitted to his neighbor, and the entire line becomes stable. The spear maintains distance, and the sword comes into play when the distance is reduced. Everything is interconnected, and each element reinforces the other. Psychological stability was no less important than the strength of wood or the sharpness of bronze. The Egyptians knew that confidence begins in the mind. Warriors accustomed to measured movements did not lose their composure, even when battle was approaching. Calmness became a weapon in itself. This is the essence of quiet strength. Strength without shouting, but with impeccable precision. The shield was also the language of the commanders. The formation was read by the position of the shields. Visual signals accelerated control. When the signal is simple and clear, the formation moves as one organism. This is how discipline becomes a tool, not an abstraction. Egyptian commanders did not shout orders during battle. It was enough for them to raise or tilt their shields, and the formation changed direction. Everyone knew what each gesture meant. Such interaction is impossible without strict order and a habit of observation. The visual control system saved seconds, and in battle, that was everything. When the entire army saw the same signal, it acted as a single organism. People moved in sync, as if they were parts of one body. This is not just discipline, it is a conscious fusion of man and system. The Egyptians were the first to turn order into a weapon, and the shield became its symbol, a sign of protection, reason, and moderation. If you put a spear, a javelin, a composite bow, a khopesh, a battle axe, a prostcha, and a bronze dagger in one frame, you will see a common principle. Each item is designed not for maximum power, but for maximum predictability. Predictability gives tempo. Tempo gives order. Order gives results. When you look at the set of weapons nearby, one important quality stands out. The items are similar in size and method of use. This simplifies their handling. Soldiers do not need to relearn anything because everything is already familiar. The repetition of forms and techniques reduces the number of mistakes in battle and speeds up joint actions. In practice, this means less haste and more confidence. Egyptian craftsmen and military engineers clearly sought stability rather than record-breaking destructive power for each individual item. It is better to have a weapon whose behavior is predictable in any situation than a single super-powerful but capricious specimen. This gave a chance for a large number of people to work together in a coordinated manner. Coordination replaced individual feats. The secret is not in rare materials, but in repeatable craft operations. Dry, glue, cover, fasten, all according to instructions, not inspiration. It is not a unique item that goes into battle, but a standard one. Standards facilitate training. Training makes the army stable. Model-based production meant that craftsmen could quickly produce identical items, even in large quantities. Repeating the same operations reduces waste and makes repairs easier. There was no need to reinvent the supply of materials for each item because the requirements were the same. This saved resources and accelerated.
Steady hands now. That's the way.
In addition, simple and understandable manufacturing technology made it possible to transfer skills more quickly. New craftsmen and recruits mastered basic operations in a short time. The faster the number of trained people grew, the more uniform armed groups could be assembled. This ensured the combat readiness of large forces. Each tool works well on its own, but best of all when used in combination. A bow with a chariot, a spear with a shield, a blade with disciplined movements. The Egyptians did not make miracle weapons. They made sets where the weaknesses of one were compensated for by the strengths of another. This is how a system is born. The system is stronger than a single triumph. In pairs or groups, weapons reveal themselves differently than when used alone. The bow provides long-range strikes, while the blade is useful in hand-to-hand combat. When different types interact, tactical flexibility arises. Chariots, infantry units, and projectile weapons often operated according to predetermined patterns, where each part had its own role. Coordination eliminated chaos and enhanced the effect of the use of force. If one element temporarily lost its effectiveness, others replaced it. This approach reduced the risk of complete failure in battle. The same logic applies to logistics. Standardization of sizes speeds up repairs, and similar techniques speed up the transition between tasks. The army spends less energy on adaptation. The energy saved is returned to the battle in the form of a steady pace. When everything is made to a single standard, spare parts fit without modification, and soldiers do not have to select or adjust equipment on the spot. This means that breakdowns were repaired more quickly and equipment remained in service longer. The speed of repairs directly affects how many times a unit can go into battle without a long pause. Logistics included not only parts and tools, but also training people to handle these things in the same way. Retraining or requalification took less time if the equipment and methods were the same. This made it possible to transfer forces between fronts without significant losses in efficiency. As a result, the country maintained the rhythm of its operations. The 7 types of weapons did not change human nature. They changed the culture of the use of force. Egypt showed that military power is not about grand gestures, but about quiet confidence in the tool. Where confidence becomes the norm, the result becomes a habit. This is their legacy. A culture based on discipline and routine forms stable habits in soldiers and commanders. With constant repetition of the same techniques, behavior becomes automatic. Automatism reduces nervousness at the decisive moment and increases the chance of sticking to the plan. An army that acts with confidence wins more battles. Most importantly, effectiveness is achieved not through something supernatural, but through simplicity and consistency. A calm and measured approach yields results that accumulate over years. This legacy is evident not in a single victory, but in the state's sustained ability to maintain order and defense. Which of the 7 Egyptian ingenious simplicities did you find most convincing? The composite bow on a light chariot, or the sickle-shaped spear next to the shield? Write in the comments why you think so and subscribe to the channel. There are still many calm but insightful analyses of weapons that change wars without unnecessary words ahead.